today we're dividing integers. Let's get our pages set up. So our learning target today, pretty straightforward. I can divide integers. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to divide integers. It's super straightforward. It's just the same as multiplying integers. And then we're going to go a step further and we're going to start dividing rational numbers. So that's fractions and decimals that are signed. Okay? So let's review what we already know about multiplication, and I'm going to show you how it also applies for division. Okay, so last time we took notes, we talked about multiplying integers. We created our little triangle dude here to help us out. Well, this can be used for dividing integers as well. They follow the same rules, okay? So let's actually list out these rules so that you have them for future reference. The first one is if you multiply a positive, if you divide a positive by a positive, your answer will be positive. Okay? That's what you've been doing since elementary school. Now, if you divide a positive by a negative, it's the same as multiplying. So a positive divided by a negative, I cover these up, and my answer is going to be negative. Okay, now the flip side of that is if you have a negative divided by a positive, which is going to give you that same negative solution. So a negative divided by a positive is going to give you a negative answer. And then the last one, last but not least, is a negative divided by a negative. Just like with multiplication, if I cover up my two negatives, a negative divided by a negative, I cover those up, my solution will be positive. Okay, so now we have these in our notes to reference. We're going to do a couple of examples. Yep.
Looks like positive. Could you just pretend like the negative sign isn't there and then do it, and whatever the answer is, just make it that?
Yep, exactly. Exactly. So just like multiplication, division, you just divide it like you normally would, and then you just figure out what the sign needs to be based on the signs of the two dividends. Okay, so let's take a look here at an example. So let's see that we have negative 24 divided by 6. Okay. First, let's think about the sign. It's a negative divided by a positive. So what's the sign going to be?
Negative.
Yes, negative. And then just go about your normal business. Okay, so 24 divided by 6 is 4. And there you have it. Not too bad, right? If you can multiply, you can divide.
Yep.
Okay, let's do one more, because sometimes it's written with a division bar like this. Sometimes division is written horizontally. Okay, first of all, what's a negative divided by a negative?
Positive.
Positive. And then 42 divided by 6, or 7. I gave the answer away. 6, good. Okay, so a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and then 42 divided by 7 is 6. Okay, let's have you get some practice here. Okay, so try those out real quick. All right. 36 divided by negative 12. Go ahead, Carson. Negative 3. Awesome. Positive divided by a negative is a negative. Okay, number 2, negative 72 divided by negative 6. Go ahead, Aiden.
12.
12. Positive 12, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. And then number 3. Go ahead, Adam.
Negative 6.
Negative 6. Good, because a negative divided by a positive is a negative. And then 90 divided by 15 is 6. Okay? Let's step it up a notch. We've so far done all of our dealings with signed numbers with integers, which are like whole numbers. Okay, there's no fractions and no decimals, but we're going to now venture into that unknown territory. We're going to be looking at what happens when we have signed numbers with fractions and decimals. Okay, so let's look at a couple of examples, and I'll have you practice a few too. So let's do 4 times negative 25 hundredths. Okay. So the first thing I always go through mentally is what's the sign of the answer going to be? Because a lot of times, and this is the most common problem, is that people will, they'll do all the hard work. They'll do all the dividing or all the multiplying, and they'll get the correct numerical answer, but then they'll completely forget about the negative symbol, okay? So this is a positive times the negative. So I know that my answer is going to be negative, okay? And then what's 4 times 25 hundredths? 1. So your answer here should be negative 1. Now that was a little too easy, so let's step it up once again. I'm going to look at a problem that has a repeating decimal. Okay. Now, like I said, so many people get wrapped up in the division that they forget to about the sign. So I'm going to do that first. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. Okay. And now, basically, I'm turning this into a decimal. I'm dividing it. So I'm going to do that division over here. And hopefully you guys haven't lost your dividing skills. that goes in 5 times. Okay. I believe this goes in 8 times. So I'm going to do 8 here. And I'm going to have you guys round to the nearest hundredth. Now when we round to the nearest hundredth, we don't just stop at the hundredths place. We go 1 digit more so that we can see whether it rounds up or it rounds down. So I'm going to keep going here and get 1 more digit. Okay, so now I have enough digits so I can round it to the nearest hundredth. So I take a look at this digit right here. Now because this is below 5, I know that that 8's going to stay the same. So this is going to be negative 0.58. And we're going to use the approximately symbols because we rounded. Approximately is like an equal sign, except for it's little squiggles instead of an equal sign. Okay. All right, so let's get some practice in. Now on the second one here, it's a repeating decimal, so you can do one of two things. You can either round to the nearest hundredth, or you can use that repeating bar over the decimal. Okay, so go ahead and try those two. What did you guys get for number 1? Good, Carson. Oh, you got it? Go cool. What'd you say? 12? Yeah, and it's positive because a negative times a negative is a positive. Good. Okay, next one. Go ahead, Carson. Negative what? So if you round to the nearest hundredth, it's going to be approximately negative 3 33/100. You could also do, did anyone do it with a repeating bar over it like this? Oh, that's what you did. Sorry, it's hard to hear because this plastic thing's in the way. And then I know some people were saying, can I write it as a mixed number? You sure can, that's fine too. Okay? All right, so what you're going to do now is use your notes if you need to. In Otis, in lessons, there's another thatquiz.org, and it's mixed. It's multiplication and division together. So I recommend that you use some scratch paper, no calculators, zero nada, and get some practicing. So instead of assigning like a practice like you usually do in Otis, thatquiz.org is a lot of good practice.